The next few classes are about a double skin facade. There is a template already on canvas with this bit of it already done, so we can just focus on the new stuff. We even have a reference plane in here for our primary curtain wall. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about a little bit here. So we have different facades and attachments that we can be looking at. Again, you can see we've got a primary wall, we've got some sort of maintenance walk, and then a secondary wall. Here's another example of double facades showing the ventilation. It helps release hot air in the summer, keep things cool, but also allows for heat gain during the winter. A couple more examples. Another one that's exploded. We're mostly going to do something similar to this page here with the louvers, this framework, some sort of shade. But they're typically, like I said, they're not on top of a floor. They're hanging off of the edge of a structure. And then you got some stuff happening in between. So this is a detail of one of those connections. You can see we got our vertical mullion, and we have some sort of bracket attaching to our slab here. And a slightly more complicated version here, where you got it above, you got some hardware here, and then you got another plate with some sort of steel going into the slab. We'll do something closer to this, maybe modify it a bit, but that's kind of what we're working on. So I'm going to start just by making the curtain wall. And if I draw from top to bottom, what's going to happen is it's going to have the glass on this side, which typically would be on the exterior. So if you want to make sure it stays on the exterior, you just have to draw from south to north. So I'm going to come into wall, just going to stick with storefront, and I'm going to go up to level 45. I'm going to snap from here and come right up to the edge. Let's see how that looks in 3D. Yep, we're going all the way. And so a lot of times, you're not going to want to see this ugliness on the in-between floors. So you're going to hide it a bit. But before we do that, in order to attach this one, we need to drag the wall down a little. So I'm going to click on that. Make sure I have a straight view. Alright. So now I have an area where I could do those brackets and attach to a vertical mullion. But like I said, this stuff is not necessarily what you want to look at from the outside. So we're going to hide those by first creating a new curtain grid. So in the architecture tab, come to curtain grid, and I'm gonna do this one to start. And then this one's kind of funky, right? Because it's not quite the right height. So I want to pick it. I'm going to unpin it, and I'm going to move it. Until I'm above. And you can decide if you want to give yourself a little leeway above, or leave it exact. Again, if I wanted to be exact, I could move that, or I could have been more careful in the first place. So that's my enclosure. I'm going to copy this lower one up. Let me see if it'll let me just grab the actual grid. There we go. And now I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to use this level here so that it visually at the same height. This one we would have to tweak. So I could either delete it and copy this one up if I want to be precise, or I can, sorry for all the zooming, I can come in here. I could say unpin, move, and if I had snapped to this surface, then I'd be consistent. So I'm going to do that again down here. I'm going to make sure I'm snapped to that. I'm going to say move. I'm going to get the edge. First I'm going to bring it up just to, because I don't remember if I snapped or not. And now I did. So now this is the exact same as this one. Up here, I'm going to go ahead and do a copy on this level again. Alright, so that should block that, and then we have one more to deal with. And now this is not the same depth as the others, so I'm just going to come back in here. Go with the curtain grid. I don't know what's going to snap to it, so I'm just going to go here for now. And now I'll unpin. No, it's already unpinned. I'm just going to say move. Snap to the top. Elements will be deleted. So let me try instead, I'll just copy. I'll copy this one down. There we go, now it's at the same height. And I won't do this for all of them, but what we want to do now is I'm going to come in, I'm going to pick these, I'm going to use filter, and I just want my curtain panels. So I'm going to click OK, and now this is the glazed, but if I click the drop down, if it will cooperate, let me unpin these first. There we go. And now I can say solid. So instead of being glass that you can see through, I have something else that blocks our structure. I'll show it again. I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to pick just my curtain panels. I'm going to make sure it's unpinned, and you can group unpin right up here. And now that it's unpinned, it'll let me change it to solid. And if you wanted, you could come in and make a custom family for these. Like let's say you wanted to do PV panels. You could actually come in and make your own family. And instead of just being glazed and solid, you could choose that. Alright, so we got that done. Now we want to think about those connectors here. Let me come into level 0, and you can see this is the edge of my floor, and this is the edge of my system. So we got a little bit of space to cover. This is a 2-inch gap. It probably could have gone smaller, but it's easier to work in this. So since we don't have a family for this, I don't think Revit has one. You'd have to get one from a manufacturer. We're just going to make a component model in place. So component, model in place. I'm going to call it a structural connection, structural framing. It's going to be an extrusion. So let's take a look at the PowerPoint again just to see. So we'll probably do something closer to this, where we've got these little L shapes that come out from the floor. And you can decide if you want to make it a continuous thing over here or just make one and mirror it. And then we'll have some sort of bolt embedded in the concrete that would come through. We're not going to model this track here. So I'm going to start with, before I do anything, I'm going to make sure I choose my material. I'm going to do aluminum. I'm going to start with a straight line. I'm going to just come from the midpoint here. We don't need to run the entire distance. So it's 5 inches. Let's go. I'm just going to make it another 5. Why not? And you can either just start using offset now, or you can come out and let's just assume it's 1/8 of an inch. And this is not cooperating, so but then it's like, where do we stop here? So I'm gonna stop early. I'm gonna turn off chain. Now I'll come up 1/8 of an inch here. Where did we end it? We ended it right here. And now I'll just come this direction in general. I'll use trim. And these are almost never perfect 90s, so I'm going to go ahead and do a fillet on them. I'll just do 1/16. All right. Whoa, what happened? There we go. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and mirror this to the other side. I'm going to click tab until I get the whole chain. I'm going to say mirror draw axis. Find this midpoint. And now I've got another side. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the bolts while I'm in here. Well, no, because they'll end up being squares. So I'll have to come from a different view and do those as round. That's fine. So I've got this and this. My material has changed on me again. Let me come back to aluminum. And I know my floor is a foot thick. It's probably not going to take this whole floor, so I'm just going to decide right now that this thing is going to be 6 inches tall. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to disassociate it from the work plane. Now I'm going to say finish. So you notice it said level 15, which is why I'm not seeing it here at level 0. am seeing it here. And if I come into my 3D view, which one of these did I put it on? Right here. All right, so before I start copying like crazy, I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of bolts. Also, I'm going to make sure height-wise they're the way I want them. Yeah, so they're sitting too high right now, so I'm just going to click on them, say move. And I'm just going to oh boy. So first I'm just going to snap them to the top. And like I said, this is 12 inches. So now I'm going to move it another 3 just to have it equal distance. Alright, so now they're evenly spaced. They're attached into the slab. Well, they will be once we make our bolts. And so now I'm going to do another component model in place. I'm still going to call it structural connection. Be another extrusion, and I'm going to pick a plane this time. And I'm going to pick this face. I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to use this midpoint to draw it, and I'm going to make it 1/2 inch. And now I'll copy it. Now I can mirror the other side. So I'm going to hold Control, mirror, draw axis. And those are going 6 inches. Let's see what that looks like if I say OK. Disassociate it from the work plane. And now I'm going to come into my level 15 and see, yeah, so that's not exactly where we want them. I'm going to say move. And I'm going to snap that to the front edge. And so now the question becomes, are you good with that, or do you want to create a hex head on top of that? That would give you more of a bolt look. I'm just going to call it as is for this one, because I'm not sure that level of detail is really going to show up in any of the stuff we're doing for this assignment. So I'm going to say finish. Now I'm going to group these. And so now that I'm grouped, I can copy them as many times as I see fit. How many verticals do we have here? So depending on, if you're in a high wind area, you probably want this all over the place. If not, especially for some of these, when we look at them on campus, where there's no floor here and they have a multi-height space, it's really only attached at the top and the bottom because there's no place to do it. So I would at least have maybe the middle and this one, and then do that on an appropriate number of floors. So that's kind of a minimum. If you really want to go crazy, You can add them everywhere, but keep in mind, if you watch Fernando's videos, each one of these connectors is not cheap. So I know I don't usually worry about reality versus school planning, but you're going to have some people who do. So now I can copy that up, and now down. And so I should have all those in place. All right, that's it for the main curtain wall. Unless you want to add more detail to these connectors, you're free to do that. If you want to add more going in to the thing, but this is kind of a bare minimum. And we'll talk a bit more about the double skin facades, and we'll look at options, and you guys will get to decide what kind you want. I encourage you to experiment and do more than you think you're comfortable doing.